Tonight we're going to be talking about the creaky sound of the door. Brigid and Imbolc. And they are two different things, but they're not really. Someone asked me today, would I be talking about the saint or the goddess? And I said, yes. Yes, how can we separate them? They're, what we know about one, we know from the other. And good evening. Hi. And so I'm going to start by saying we're going to make butter tonight. So in this little mason jar, I have filled it, a third of the way with whipping cream. I'll start the shaking. Now there's nothing else in here. I added nothing else. No salt, no nothing. We're just going to have pure butter. And so what's lovely about making your own butter is that I'm going to right to my heart and envelop it with all my good vibes, right? And then you shake. And then I'm going to pass it. And everyone is just going to shake. And so we're going to have this sound in the background, and nobody's going to care. All right? And then I have fresh baked sourdough bread from Shea. And the magic of this bread is that, sourdough bread, you share the, what do you call it? Who makes it? Whatever you're making, that little the starter, you keep sharing that. And you have to keep sharing the bread because all of a sudden you've got too much bread. So she just started doing it, and this was her first share. Aww. So we get to partake of our own butter and of this fabulous homemade bread. So I'm going to pass this to you and just give it some loving, and we'll pass that around. Now we make butter on Imbolc and honor things that are milk products. Because Imbolc actually means the lactating ewes, right? Literally, that's what it means. So what I have to do is I have to go back and talk about our agricultural ancestors that long predate Saint Brigid, right? So in your mind, here we are, we're 2024, we have every modern convenience we could never have dreamed of in our wildest day, and we care about nothing about the weather and our safety and our life, right? I mean, we have heat, we have all the things we need. We have running water. But pre-Christian time, it's 2,000 years ago, we have to be thinking about. 2,000 years ago, our ancestors, everywhere in the world, were agricultural people. They were farmers. They were living in weather that's very different than ours, right? So we're talking about Europe, Ireland, England, cold winters, dark winters. By this time of the year, we live in a Julian calendar, right? That is very patriarchal, very masculine, very unempowering for women. But so we celebrate Imbolc on February 1st because that just works with calendars. Right? That's just, it works. But when it was happening thousands of years ago, when the lambs started to lactate, when animals started to have eggs again, it was a time to celebrate. It makes me slightly emotional to think about it because you're surviving the hardest part of the winter already. You have come to a point where you know what kind of stores you have left. You realize you're going to make it through the winter, right? You're going to make it through the next part of the winter. And all of a sudden, you've got milk. It's the greatest gift. Your chickens are suddenly laying eggs because it's a little lighter outside, right? And so you haven't seen your neighbors. And the other thing is that some of your animals aren't going to survive. You're not going to have enough food to feed all of your animals. And at this point, you can call them. And so invite your community to celebrate with you. You're going to have milk-based products because you finally have milk. You're going to have buttery bread, yummy things. You're going to have Oh, you're going to have rich stews with vegetables, hearty winter foods you're going to have, interlaced with this new delicious treat. What I've always felt about Imbolc is that it's more of a celebration of hope, love, and community, because you're surviving. And so here in today, how do you make that work for us, right? We still suffer from the darkness here in, New York. We still have the dark. It's still cold. We're far from not getting another snowstorm. I think it's supposed to snow next week, right? So snow will come for us for months more, even though we've had weird weather. The snow caps start to come out. Little signs of spring. It's about awakening. It's about renewal of life. And that is just hope in every way, right? To see the little spring things, the crocuses beginning to come up. I've already seen forsythia. I wasn't happy about it. But, that's the signs we start to look for, because it's still very early. The earth, I like to think of it as, so the poem I had written years ago was about the Lord of the forest caressing the mother while she sleeps and gently wakes her from her winter slumber. And she's just kind of doing this. Think about that lover who woke you gently in the morning, and that whole vibe. That's what's happening. And it's actually very sensual, because springtime is all about birth and new life. And there you go. She's just yawning and stretching right now. And everybody hears the whisper of her waking up. And that's a lovely visual that I hold for Imbolc. Now, that's what was happening pre-Christian times, out in the fields, out in the rural areas. But there were still lots of cities and lots of cults of people worshiping deities at this time also. They might not have known about them out in the rural areas so much as they did more in the centralized areas. And in Kildare, so I've been to Ireland, and everywhere you go is Brigid. It doesn't matter where you are in Ireland or what body of water you're at, what well. She's guardian of everyone. She's everywhere, all right? So the cults of Brigid were really, really big in Ireland. And in Kildare, in Ireland, there was a flame that was lit long before the Christians came, just like Vesta's temple, the Vestal Virgins. Their flame was tended by 20 women. Brigid's flame currently is tended to by 20 women. I'll tell you more about that. But and then there was Hestia, there was Vesta, and there was Brigid, all who had eternal flames, all pre-Christian. And her flame was known to have been in Kildare, in Ireland. So we know that about their cult, is that she was a fire goddess. But all through Ireland, so we don't know. All right, let me say this. We don't know exactly where Brigid, the goddess, was revered and honored and all the things, because they weren't keeping written records then, right? What we know about Brigid, the goddess, has come from how the people of Ireland have worshipped and honored the Saint Brigid. Because this is why you cannot separate Brigid the goddess and Brigid the saint, because they are woven into the tapestry of those people in such a way. So Christianity comes along, knocking. Well, I really feel like they threw stones at your door. But anyway, they didn't just come and knock. But so Christianity comes along, and you need to conform. You really can't not conform. Look at the world around us. We all conformed to this next thing. But in the year 450, maybe I don't know exactly when Saint Brigid was born, but I know that she was born to a Druid man, a Druid father, and a slave woman. And at a very early age, she started to do miraculous things. They named her Brigid because they were connected to Brigid. So this is in the 400s. By 450, she was a nun, supposedly a real person. So to keep passing it, everybody gets to shake this.
I'm going to grab a towel because it's like spraying.
Oh,
everywhere.
gosh.
Yeah.
Make sure that, give it to Caroline and let Caroline tighten it, clean it up. Caroline?
Right.
There she goes. She'll help you out. What am I talking about?
Brigid was a real person.
Oh, yeah. So, there are lots of accounts of Brigid as being a real person. That Saint Brigid actually did live. They have lots of accounts of that and lots of stories about that. So, and the fact that they had named her Brigid as a child, but that she didn't take that name, that was her name. It's all kind of interesting, right? So she goes on to do all these miracles, and she's a nun, and she decides her temple, for her, they didn't call it temple, it was called a monastery. Her monastery she wanted it on Kildare because the flame of Brigid burned there before. She was very clear that is why she wanted her monastery on that place, because she understood the power. So some of the miracles about St. Brigid flow into worship of Brigid, whether you are Christian or not, because what ends up happening, she becomes her saint, carrying on. The Catholic Church could not get pagan people, which they would call us, right? Which they called the farmers. They couldn't get the people to stop celebrating the pagan goddess Brigid. They refused. They just couldn't do it. And so the Catholic Church, just like Jesus' birthday is December 25th, right? They picked that date. We all who came here last month, we all know they picked that date to get us out of the fields. They did the same thing with Brigid. They decided that we would honor St. Brigid when the spring came. And so they made it February 1st, and it's Candlemas, where she has candles, a beautiful crown of candles. And there's lots of stories about that, about St. Brigid wearing the candles too. So she was a goddess of fire. I want to talk about fire separate. I want to get all this weird little history stuff taken care of first. So the people go, okay, yay. We're happy to come to church and honor Brigid, and we're going to keep doing it just like we've always done it. They didn't, all of a sudden, the Catholic Church didn't give them rituals to do. Please, we all know that that's not what happened, because they do their rituals themselves, and you watch, right? But that is not what's happened in Ireland. The Irish people were like, this is what we do for Brigid. And so Brigid the Saint has all the same attributes as Brigid the goddess. She was the gift of fire in 3 ways. Fire of inspiration, the fire of the forge, and the fire of the sun. The fire of the sun is healing. The fire of the forge is transformation. And inspiration, fire of inspiration is the bardic arts. It's poetry. It's musing us to be artistic. It's about encouraging us to get to the edge of our knowledge base all the time. She's about higher learning, thinking, and love her. But any bardic practitioner from Ireland sings the praises of Brigid to bring them clear, clean, poetic words and poetic paintings. And so she's quite an inspiration in that realm. Brigid of the Forge, the fires and the flames of the forge. So think about forging. Forging is taking metal, melting it, and reshaping it. On a spiritual level, we all go through the forging. You're not here today because you have not gone through that forging. We all have. The world beats us down and reshapes us. And those of us we're all post-COVID, we've been beaten down for 3 years. And we're all now trying to figure out who we are. Right? So this is the perfect time to honor Brigid in your life. Who am I? What are you shaping me into? Who am I becoming? That's the question that we ask Brigid. Who am I becoming? Shape me. Support me in being the next best incarnation of who I am here to be. And in this aspect of her, some writings in the early 1100s talk about Brigid and war. Like she went to war with them. She supported the smith crafters in making their blades and making their arrows. So her energy was being put into their war implements. And some people will say some of the stories are that they've seen her over their troops in battle. So it's interesting to understand she has a warlike aspect of her. Like she's not, we always see pictures of her and she's calm and she's fabulous. But she's a warrior. She's a warrior. She works with fire. Don't be misled by her long blue and white dress. She gets that shit dirty. And she does. She's out there protecting the warriors. And I think we're all warriors. We're all out there doing the hard work, warring for ourselves and our families every day. Right? How's it going? How's that shaking going? All right, we got it. It'll eventually be hard. And smith crafting, also, not only are you making new implements, but you're fixing things. It's how we fix things. It's how we mend things, including ourselves, right? Our relationships. How are we mending things? The third aspect is over the hearth, which is the everlasting sun. She's the healer. So it's interesting. So you've got fire or flames, however you want to use it, whatever F word you want to use. Flames of inspiration, which is goddess of the poets. Flames of the forge, which is the goddess of transformation, smith crafting. The third one, where she is the healer. She is the breath of sunlight. It is one we call her the goddess of the hearth. Because the hearth is the center of your home. Not ours, and I wish it was mine. But back then, the hearth was in the center of the house. It was the place where the family came together. It is where you made your medicine. It is where you made your meals. It is what kept you warm. It was your survival. So all things about your well-being have to do with the fire of the hearth. And she's a sun goddess, of the fire goddess. She's born of Dagda. She's the daughter of Dagda, who was the father of Ireland. He's the Zeus in that pantheon, the Dagda. He's everywhere. And in Ireland, it's funny, in some of the books they don't talk about this, but I can tell you this because I know, because I've seen it, been there with my own eyes, is that Dagda had a penis so big that he put it in a wheelbarrow, and that is how he walked through town. That's the Dagda. And funny, they don't talk about that, but that is his reality. It was because he was all about fertility. He was the fertility god in his little wheelbarrow. But everywhere you go in Ireland, there he is with his very, very big penis. And it is funny, and you do giggle, but they take it seriously, man. That's how they portray him. They're not afraid in Ireland of body parts, where our Christian sense here is very Puritan. In the cathedrals in Ireland, Sheila na Gig, does everybody know who Sheila na Gig is? Ireland, Sheila na Gig is the vulva goddess, where Sheila na Gig is birthing the world. She's birthing everything into life. And where else is it coming from but your vagina? And so she has actually, she's mostly a vulva, and it's just opening up into the world. And they're in the cathedrals. They're everywhere. It's really powerful. I appreciate that about their culture, is that they really honor the fertility aspects of our life. It's not shoved into a corner. Instead, it's everywhere, in every corner of every cathedral. And when the Catholics took it over, they couldn't remove those from the temples. It just was there. So I'm grateful for that. So those are her three aspects, and those are the aspects of her that we really honor at Imbolc. That it doesn't matter if you're a saint or if you're a goddess. Those are the attributes that we call upon her to support us with. In the 1100s, right, around the same time that Krampus and all those other creatures were coming out, and Santa and all of that, well, he wasn't Santa, he was Krampus, he was St. Nicholas. There was a real live Brigid that came around, which I find the parallel to this incredible, because here you have this myth, the St. Nicholas man who came house to house and brought you gifts. But he was also a real man. They really did it. They walked around and they gave gifts and things happened. So there was a person that we know did that, right? And then the fun comes. Then you have the people who walk through town and pretend to be him, like Krampus, knocking at your door. Or the Christmas witch coming knocking at your door, and you have to bring them in and you have to feed them and all kinds of things. Brigid did the same thing, where there was a Brigid that would walk through town with her cow. And you would have to, and if she knocked on your door, you would invite Brigid in to have a meal with you, and you gave her hay for her cow. She always had a cow. That was her sacred animal. And she left you gifts. So it's very similar stories to the Santa story, which I found interesting to note that. So what the people of Ireland were doing back at that same time was they were leaving out things for Brigid. They left out milk for her cow, right? For wheat for her cow. They left out milk. It wasn't for the fairies, but milk was a big part, so that you leave out a dish of milk. But they left out Brigid's dolls. They have a word in Irish for the Brigid's doll. But they would make a doll and make a bed and lay the doll in the bed. And again, it was all about fertility. The doll was to be impregnated in the night. Somehow you would know that Brigid had come through and blessed the dolls, blessed the bed, blessed the things you left out front, like you left your Brigid's cross out front. Brigid's cross is definitely connected to the Saint Brigid. The story about her is making a cross and giving it to a king, and he was healed. And so the cross holds healing and protection energy, but it's connected to the saint. But we all make them now. It doesn't make any difference. It's about the four directions, honoring the four directions. So they left their cross out for her to bless. On the eve of February 1st, so the 31st, is when Brigid comes every year and walks across your yard. If you are lucky enough, she will leave a message that she walked across your yard. So what you do, and I've been doing it for decades, is that I have a white piece of cloth, and you leave it out. It's called Brigid's Mantle. And you leave it at your doorstep, or you leave it wherever you leave it. Who gives a shit these days, where you leave your cloth, right? You leave your cloth out. And if there were not signs that Brigid had walked over your cloth the next morning, that was not a good sign. But anything could be a message. It just needed to be wavy. It just needed to have a breeze come through it. Because she's just gently walking across this. There have been times when there's been some serious messages that she'd walk over my mantle. And then you take your mantle and you cut it into strips and you make clooties out of them. Clooties is a word, I'm hiding my clootie. Clootie is an Irish word for like a handkerchief. And when you go to the trees around the sacred wells, so she's goddess of everything. Let's just face it, because she's also goddess and guardian and protector of all the water of Ireland. I mean, every well is a well to Brigid. No matter where you go, it's about Brigid. So and that's it's 7. Thank you. It's very important. Water. Let's face it. They knew you had to have clean water, right? Or you don't survive. And so that she was guardian of, again, about our health, about our well-being. She guarded all the wells. And so you would take, this is a fabulous book. I don't even know if it's in print anymore. It actually was my teacher's, 2005, and he brought it into so this is so good. But this is what a clootie is. This is a tiny little clootie. Often they were big enough that you could wrap it around your head, because if you had a headache, that's what you wanted Brigid to do, take away your headache. And you would walk around with your clootie wrapped around your head. So any kind of illness, you would ask Brigid to heal that illness, leave your cloth out, and then you take your clootie and you tie it on a tree branch. Now here we can't go to a Brigid's well, but you would go to a Brigid's well in Ireland, and and every year they take them down, and because it's an annual thing. Your clootie only lasts a year, and then every year the town takes all the clooties down, and next year they all get filled up, and they still do it today. Mostly hawthorn trees, but anyway, yeah. So you ask Brigid for specific healing in your clootie. And then now you hang it on your tree outside, or you hang it on your drum or your rattle, or somewhere that leave it on your altar and let it hang. But it's about letting your prayers go out in gratitude, right? And I was using this one as a bookmark. Yeah, so those are the things that come to mind as the most important aspects of what we're doing at this time of the year. Again, back to community, about to honoring who you love and that you've made it through. Let me go back to the eternal flame. So when Brigid creates her monastery there, they light the flame. I hear it almost being ready.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's almost ready. A couple more shakes, that butter's gonna be ready. It'll be perfect timing. And that flame stayed lit for hundreds and hundreds of years. And it was tended by this was the original thoughts, is that there's 20 women that tend to it. No men are allowed anywhere near the flame. And if they did, it was really, they had awful luck. Bad things happen. I don't know exactly. But, and why would they do it? They just don't. So, anyway, 19 maidens, and on the 20th night, Brigid would be the one to tend the flame. So they still do. 20 women tending the flame. And that's true for all the temples. Vesta and Hestia were both 20 women also. And they lived there, they stayed there. During the Reformation, I don't know, 1100s or something, they extinguished the flame. And it stayed extinguished until 1993. And in 1993, they relit the flame. I just gave myself chills. 1993, they relit the flame, and it's been tended to ever since. And every year, so they tended to it in Kildare. And once a year at Imbolc, they were lighting the flame in the center of town, but they would put it out. In 2006, they lit this town flame in the center, and that also burns 24/7 also. So, Ireland is finding its way back to some roots. So their roots are so rich and so deep. It feels good to know that that kind of transformation is happening, and connecting with their heritage. And those deities live and are vibrant in their land. You feel it the minute you lay on the ground. You know, it's very, very real. And what we focus on is true, right? Like, there's a heaven and there's a hell because for 2,000 years people have believed in it. And so there's a frequency of that and it exists, right? But I don't believe it, and so it's not my frequency, and so I will go to neither. Same thing is true with Brigid, God, goddess, or saint. It doesn't matter. That Brigid energy exists, period, without question of whether she's a saint or whether she's a goddess. That Brigid energy is tangible, she is reachable, and she is one of the closest to the human realm goddesses I have ever worked with. She reminds me of Kuan Yin and Mother Mary. She's very close to them, color-wise. They all wear blue and white. They are all about helping humans and healing humans. They're all about renewal. I mean, Mary birthed the next God, right? I mean, Brigid is all about renewal, rebirth, birthing. She's a midwife.
She's the patron saint of the Lord.
She is.
Which is why I believe Toby.
Yeah. She's a midwife. She watches over every birth that happens. And so that's Brigid. Is that ready?
It looks pretty buttery.
Oh, right. You would pass it back, and Caroline is going to spread that on some bread for us. And I have some napkins, and I'm going to pass out the napkins. I'm also going to pass out the Brigid's oil that I made. All right, so I'm going to let you sniff away. You can actually put some on. There's a little thing in there. So this is the Brigid's anointing oil that I made. So take a napkin and take a sniff. So on my altars for Brigid, always orange and red, yellows, fire colors. You want fire. But it's not a bonfire. Yule is a candlelight. Right? It's just a flicker of little teeny flame. Imbolc is more candles, but it's a fire in your hearth. It's not a bonfire yet. The bonfires come at Beltane when you release your animals into the field, and it's all about that fertility, that bigger fire that we burn in our bodies. This is still a winter fire. This is the warmth of a hearth fire that's comforting and cozy. Bonfires, the fire is fierce and wild, and that is not this holiday. This is more of sitting in front of your hearth and having bread with your peeps. So I wish that I had forced bulbs, but I didn't. So because I don't do it often, and I know that I don't do it often, I found this fabulous little thing at Michael's, I don't know, 20 years ago. And I keep it in a box, and every Imbolc I take it out. That's what we do, right? You start finding things. Thank you, sweetie. Finding things in the funniest places, right? So forcing snow caps, it's important. I have many, many photos of our Brigid's crosses laying with snow caps. That's what happens when Brigid's Day comes, right? I found a little sheep with spirals on it. What? I probably got that at Michael's too. But that was the best thing I ever found. So you want, if you can find a sheep, you want a sheep on your altar. You want to make butter. You want to make things that have milk in it, and yeah. And some of the stones that I like for Brigid, carnelian. That's her in her healing energy. Carnelian, healing you, comforting you. Sunstone, this directing of the sun, finding your way. So orange stones are really nice. We don't have reeds, like they made their Brigid's crosses out of reeds, because they had that kind of, I don't know where, I actually don't know where reeds come from. Water?
Marshy area.
Marshy area? Yeah, right. So we don't have that. I don't have that. So, but I do have access to wheat. And so we've always made our candles, oh, that smells so good. I can smell that oil. So wheat is what we use to make her crosses. And this is my little cross this year. This is the size of the crosses that came with the kits we sold. But we sold them all. We sold all our kits. So I hope that those of you who wanted one got one. This is how big your cross is. Honoring the 4 directions. She's an elemental goddess. She's got, you know, each of these elements are part of her aspects. So I made this when I've been praying for Brigid to bring to me my forever home. So I made a little poem up for her, and I've been singing it, and I've been tapping my heart with my cross, praying for her to come help me. And that's what we do. That's what she wants you to do. She wants you to talk right to her. But you only keep your crosses for 1 year. And then each year, along with your mantle, so what we would do when we were having circles is that we make our crosses 1 year, and then next year we began our ritual by burning the crosses from the year before. Right? So because it's always new energy. It's always renewed. Can't go by, can't use it over and over. Gotta do it every year. Any questions? Any questions from out in the world? Or any questions here?
Thank you.
All right. I am actually going to show you how to make the crosses. But I can't really show you guys at home. Because I don't think you'll see it. Because I'm going to have everybody crowd around my little table. And
What if I can't burn it?
oh, so I would compost it. I would, what if you can't burn it? I have actually always had a fire of some sort where I could. I have a fire. I love a fireplace.
Did you bury it? Put them in the dirt. That's good.
Put them in the dirt. I tell you what, I would be hard pressed to bury mine every year. I just wouldn't do it. I mean, if you have a garden and you can compost it into your soil somehow, that'd be awesome. Barbecue it. You could also ceremonially, like I know that my garbage company, Royal Carting, they have fires. What is the word? They have incinerators.
Oh.
So if you know that your garbage company is gonna fire it up, you can ceremonially take it, crinkle it up, wrap it in some nice little paper, and toss it, knowing it's gonna go into an incinerator. There's lots of ways to figure it out. You just have to be creative, because in the end, if your heart is in the right place, it doesn't fucking matter what you do. That's just the truth. If it feels right in the moment and you have no other choices, that's what you do. You have to trust yourself and know that your heart's leading you where you need to go. They don't have rules like we have rules. We make the rules. We say we should burn it in a fire. She didn't say that. I'm telling you that, right? My humanness from my research says, oh, that's what I do, but they made that shit up too. So you have to do what you need to do, right? That goes for all the magic you ever do.
And maybe put it in the river because she's the goddess of the water.
Oh, send it down the Hudson. Send it down the Hudson. And then, think about it. It's going to get pushed up to the shore and compost along the edge. And, hopefully nobody eats it that shouldn't. But the bird, whatever. All right. So I am going to, go get my reeds. And I'm actually going to turn off the Instagram feed, because you won't be able to see me. So there is a video out there on how to do the crosses. So I'm going to say to Instagram, go watch that video on our website, or I don't know where it is. It might be in the feed somewhere. Go find it. Now, all right, goodbye Instagram. I love you. Thanks for watching. All right, and I did that funny little. You did that right? All right, but those of you on Facebook, I'm going to be able to do this with Caroline. Caroline's going to help me. All right. Okay, so let me get set up. Caroline's going to pass out bread. Caroline's on it.
busy.
Caroline's on it. So she's gonna, actually, you know what you can do, love, is give them the plate and let them pass it around. Let me tell you something about the butter. Now, you could have added salt to it right in the very beginning if you wanted it to be salty. But now at this point, when we finish shaking, what you would want to do at that point is you rinse it out. You rinse it off. Like you wash your hands, you rinse off your butter in a little bowl. Because what's happened now is you've created buttermilk. So either you keep the buttermilk or you throw it out. I throw mine out because I don't use buttermilk for anything. I don't make pancakes or shit like that. So you do whatever you want with the buttermilk. But you don't want the buttermilk on your butter because it will cause the butter to go rancid quicker than without. So now this butter lasts a couple weeks in the refrigerator. You just keep an eye on it, right? You could leave it out. I hate butter in the refrigerator. But then you got, 4 or 5 days. But you want to rinse off the buttermilk. Then you would add what you wanted to add to it. You could add anything to your butter. Anything. All right, here I go. Oh, I didn't give Instagram their code. Oh, Instagrammers miss out. All right, so let me tell you this. Everybody who's sitting in my space gets 20% off their purchase tonight. Just for showing up. Thanks for showing up. I really love that you were able to get here. So you get 20% off your purchase. And you guys who are online, if you want 20% off, you get it too. And so your code, you only get to do it until tomorrow night. You only get 24 hours. And it is Brigid20. And it'll take 20% off your whole order. And yeah, that's going to happen. All right. Let's see. Well, actually, I think, can you guys see what I'm doing? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I could have left Instagram on. Oh well, too bad for them. All right, now you got my forehead. Let's see. Oh, it was better before. All right, let me bring it way down. Where am I? I was touching the right thing. Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah. You think it's going to stay?
I think so.
Look at that. Oh, my God. Okay. How exciting. I'm so high-tech. So high-tech. All right, so I've soaked these little reeds already for, look, Caroline's out of a job. Oh, and I say that what's really true is that Caroline is leaving. Aww. Not that I fired her. She's not out of job. But Caroline is moving on to the next most fabulous thing in her world. And we already miss her. And so, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. I can't believe I just did that. And so Sunday, this coming Sunday, is her last day. And we're having cake. Did you know that? Yeah. Oh, okay. So we're going to have cake and wine. And so come by on Sunday and give Caroline a hug and wish her well on the next leg of her fabulous journey, because we are honored to have been part of her journey thus far. Mwah. I've been crying a lot. I'm very sad. Okay, so these have soaked for 2 hours. You want them to be pliable, all right? So I start off with 2. Bing, bing, just like that, into my little cross. Now, you want to have something heavy with you, all right? I'll show you why. It can be the same thing that lives on top of your straw. So I had mine in an aluminum tin, right? And I had this laying on top of them, because you don't want them to float. You want them to stay down. Palm stone's really good. You guys got rocks at home, you know. Now you got something to do with them. And so I just lay it on my things underneath the water because they float. All right? All right, so start with the cross. You take the first one, and you flip it towards you. every time that you pull a straw to you, it is a prayer. Okay? You can have the same prayer 13 times, doesn't matter. All right? So that's the first one. And you turn it clockwise. And that's it. That's all you do. You just keep turning the straw over. It's so freaking simple. And you don't have to worry about how they look at the moment, because you're going to fix that when you're done. You just got to keep laying them together like this. Try to get them even. You can try to shove them all together now while you're doing it. But it's about turning. Now, if you go online, you will see it's just about shoving it up against the edge, right? And just doing the same thing over and over. You will see that they all go counterclockwise. They start on the right side and go counterclockwise. Many, many moons ago, I decided that didn't feel good. And that a man wrote those directions. And so I decided I was going to do it different. And so I had my girls actually make the instructions up this way, which I'm very happy for. Because when we spin things in time, we're bringing them in to this reality. We're bringing it in. When we do ritual, right, we call in the directions. We go clockwise. When we're done, we go counterclockwise. We spin them all back out of our time. This is no different. This is the same thing. That I'm spinning my healing and my prayers right into my life. Spin. With each turn, I'm spinning my prayers into my being. I'm pulling my prayer, boom, right into my being. This is a prayer. That's what you're doing. And there's 13 stalks. We used to do them with 16. I always did 16. And this year I thought, why? Why aren't we doing 13? What's wrong with us? And so I changed it. You know, and so what? It's perfect. I love it now at 13. All right, so there I go. There I am. Look at, I barely paid attention. I barely paid attention. Ta-da! Oh, well, yeah. All right. I had to show off, didn't I?
It still came out great.
I totally had to show off. Okay. And now I broke it. But it doesn't matter, because I'll be able to rewind it all back together because they're all folded perfectly. Then, this is what I do. This is why you have your rock. I put my rock on top. And then I do what I got to do. You cut your string, you go get a drink. Whatever you have to do can now happen because this is already taken care of. And then you tie the ends. I'm going to rewind it now that I broke it. So I'm not going to tie the ends till I fix it. But that's what happens. And then you get this. Ta-da! All right. I'm going to turn you guys off so I can entertain all of them. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to use your coupon. Brigid 20.